الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم ربنا زدنا علما اللهم انفعنا بما علمتنا وعلمنا ما ينفعنا وزدنا علما وزدنا حكمة والحمد لله على كل حال اللهم افتح علينا حكمتك وانشر علينا رحمتك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام اللهم نظر قلوبنا بنور القرآن وزين أخلاقنا بنور القرآن وأدخلنا الجنة بالقرآن ونجنا من النار بالقرآن. My dear brothers, sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Yesterday we went through the definition of tajweed, why tajweed is important, the rulings of tajweed, and we studied what constitutes as a mistake, lahnu jali, lahnu khafi. Inshallah, today we will continue through Tuhfatul Atfāl and we will study the rules of Nun Sākina and Tanween, inshallah. Yesterday, I had some questions. I was messaged with a brother asked, are we required to memorize the poem? If you are familiar with Arabic and you understand the Arabic language, I would strongly advise and recommend that you do memorize the poem. However, if you are not too strong or you don't know Arabic, then learning the content will suffice. Okay, another interesting question which I received was, do we receive reward for reciting the translation of the Quran? So if we was to recite the Quran and we only recite in English or in any other language, will we receive reward? And we know from the Hadith Sharif that reciting the Quran in Arabic, without any doubt, certainly a person will receive 10 rewards for each letter and maybe even more. But with regards to reciting or reading the translation of the Quran, we don't know how much reward a person will receive. Only Allah Almighty knows. But certainly that person will receive some reward. If a person was to read the Arabic, so the Quran itself, and then he coupled that with the translation of the Quran, that would bring about more reward. Again, we don't know how much reward Allah Kareem will give, Allah the Almighty will give, but what we do know is Imam Al-Ghazali rahimahullah said, reciting one verse of the Quran with understanding, reciting one verse of the Quran with understanding is better than reciting the entire Quran without understanding. So the best thing to do is to recite the Quran. Have your daily reciter, your daily amount that you will recite, whether it's one page, whether it's 3 lines, whether it's a quarter juz, whatever is easy and achievable for you, recite on a daily basis, but then also take some time out, 5 or 10 minutes to recite or to read a page with translation. Allah Kareem give us tawfiq. Inshallah, we will begin with today's lesson. The rules of Nun Sākina and Tanween. So after introducing us to the book, after making dua for us, after sending hamd and salawat upon the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam, Sheikh Sulaiman al-Jamzuri, he begins with the rules of Nun Sākina and Tanween. And inshallah, the way we will do this is, I will go through the poem first. Inshallah, I will translate the poem, and then we will actually study how the ahkam, how the rulings actually work, inshallah. So, Sheikh Sulaiman al-Jamzuri, rahimahullah, he says, ينوني إن تسكن وجد تنويني أربع أحكام فخذ تبيني. He says, for the noon, if it is sākina and the tanween. Yinnuni, for the noon, in taskun, if it is sākina, wagit tanweeni, and for the tanween, arba'u ahkamin. There are 4 rules. Arba means 4, ahkam means rulings. There are 4 rules. And then he says, فَخُسْ تَبْيِينِ. So take my explanation. And before we continue, I would like to explain something important to you. Write this down, make a note of this. Noon sākina and tanween is actually the same thing. So if I was to say the word, this word we see here, ahkamin, you see it has a tanween at the end. But this meme, this double vowing, this tanween, this nonation, meme, those there min, or meme kasratain, is the same as meme noon zer min. So in essence, the tanween is actually a noon sākina. So make a note of that, inshallah. So Shaykh Sulaiman al-Jamzuri rahimahullah says, for the noon, if it is sākina and the tanween, there are 4 rules. He says, فَخُذْ تَبِينِ. So take my explanation. And look, this is the beauty of this beautiful musannif, where he is constantly encouraging us, he's motivating us, he's reminding us. You know, he's as if he is taking us through the point himself. You know, at every point he's giving us some sort of command or some sort of fi'l amr, where he's telling us to do something. He says, take my explanation. This is like, I'll tell you what this is akin to. Like a person, when you say to children, on Saturday, we'll go to a restaurant or we'll go to a takeaway, we'll get some fast food. The children get excited, they get ready, and they can't wait till Saturday. They count the days down. But then when you say to them, yeah, we'll go on Saturday, we'll get some takeaway, we'll get some fast food, but the condition is that you all sit down, all 4 of you sit down, and you recite the entire Quran together. So you recite 5 or 6 juz each, and you complete the Quran. Only then on Saturday, we will go and we'll get some fast food. And what happens? They all think, yo, you know, forget this. This is not for me. I'll go and buy my own cheeseburger. This is, you know, this is what Sheikh Sulaiman, he's trying to gesture towards. He's doing ishara towards this. Right? He's saying you are all interested in tajweed. You want to study tajweed, you're here to study tajweed. And now that I'm telling you there's 4 rules of Nun Sakina and Tanween, don't run away. Stay with me. Inshallah, I will take you with them slowly but surely. Inshallah. So he says, فَخُذْ تَبْيِينِي. فَخُذْ, that means so, khuz means take. فَخُذْ, grasp, take hold of. Tabyini, my explanation. So he told us in this ayah, there's 4 rules of Nun Sakina and Tanween. So understand them. So now he moves on to the ruling. First ruling, he says, فَالْأَوَّلُ إِزْهَارُ قَبْلَ أَحْرُفِ لِلْحَلْقِ سِتٌّ رُتِّبَتْ فَلْتَعْرِفِ. Says فَالْأَوَّلُ إِزْهَارُ قَبْلَ أَحْرُفِ. So the first rule of Nun Sakina and Tanween is called Izhar. Izhar. What is it called? Izhar. And Izhar is when the throat letters, the huruf halqiyya, when they appear after the Nun Sakina or Tanween. The way Sheikh Sulaiman has explained here, he says when the throat letters come after the Nun Sakina or Tanween, then what you do Izhar. فالأول إظهار قبل أحرف. First is Izhar before the letters of the throat. Halq means throat. Then he says ست رتبت فلتعرفي. ست رتبت. ست means six. رتبت, which have been arranged, which have been organized. فلتعرفي. So know them. So first rule is Izhar before the letters of the throat, which are six. He's telling us here there are six letters of the throat. And then he tells us, don't worry, I'm telling you them in the next couplet. In the next stanza, I will tell you about these six letters of the throat. Then he says, فَلْتَعْرِفِ. So know them. عَرَفَ يَعْرِفُ means to know, to recognize, to acknowledge. He says, so know them, learn them, don't forget them. That these are the letters of the throat. Which letters are they? He says, همز فاء ثم عين حاء مهملتان ثم غين خاء. He says there are Hamza then the Ha. Hamza, Ha, and then Ain and Ha. Then he says muhmalatani, which are which are both dotless. So Ain and Ha are dotless. Thumma ghain and Kha. Then Ghain and Kha. Look how he's making it easy for the student of knowledge to remember. He says you learn that the letters of the throat are six. Hamzun fa ha'un. From the aqsal halq, from the bottom of the throat, the furthest part of the throat, you have Hamza and Ha. And from the middle of the part of the throat, from the middle part of the throat, you have Ain and Ha. So Hamza, Ha, Ain, Ha. Now you're getting tired and you're thinking, oh, I've learned four, how am I going to remember the next two? He says, don't worry. Ain and Ha are dotless. It's all you have to remember is add a dot to them, and then that will give you Ghain and Ha. So add a dot to Ain and Ha, which gives you Ghain and Ha. In this manner, you will learn the letters of the throat. Hamza, Ha, Ain, Ha, Ghain, Kha. Okay, let's move on to the next slide, inshallah. Then, before we move on, look how, Sheikh Salman is constantly reminding us. First he says, فَخُسْتَبِينِ. Then he says, فَلْتَعْرِفِ. Take my explanation and recognize. He's saying that I've told you the four rulings, then I've told you the six letters. So make sure you don't run off. Bear with me. Inshallah, we'll go through this together. And now let's have a look at these rules. He says the first rule is Izhar. فالأول إظهار قبل أحرف الحلق ست رتبت فلتعرف. The first rule is Izhar. Izhar, it literally means to make something clear. Izhar literally means to make something clear. When Nun sākina or tanween precede, come before, any one of the six letters of the throat, the Nun sākina or tanween is pronounced short, sharp, and clear without gunna. Gunna is nasalization. So he's telling us what izhar means. Izhar means to make something clear. That we're doing izhar or something. We're making it clear. We're making it apparent. So when the Nun sākina or tanween comes before any letter of the throat, the six letters, hamzun fa ha'un, summa aynun ha'u, muhmalatani thumma ghaynun kha'u. So any of these six letters, then what do? We make the noon short, sharp, and clear. Let's have a look at some examples, inshallah. First, inshallah, we will have a look at the examples of tanween. So we already know tanween is nunation, is two vowels, it's the doubling of vowels. So if you have a look at this example, hasidin ida, what do we have here? We have a tanween. On this dal, we have annulation, we have two vowels, double vowels, we have two kasratain. So a tanween has appeared before a letter of the throat. Hamza is a letter of the throat from the aqsal halq, from the bottom of the throat, the furthest part of the throat. So what do? Because tanween has appeared before the letter of the throat, we make that tanween short, sharp, and clear. So how will we recite this? We will recite this by in the manner حاسب إذا din إذا din إذا. And how will you not recite this? حاسد إذا حاسد إذا. That would be incorrect because we are making gunna. Gunna means to nasalize, to we. This is what we are supposed to avoid in the izhar, because izhar is to make the noon or the tanween short, sharp, and clear. So the correct manner of reciting here would be hasidin ida, hasidin ida. Okay, moving on to the next example, you have salamun here, salamun here. Again, we have a tanween on the meme, a tanween before a letter of the throat. We recognize that the ha is a letter of the throat, pronounced from the aqsa halq, from the bottom of the throat. So what do? We pronounce the tanween short, sharp, and clear. Salamun here, as opposed to salamun here, salamun here. Okay. Again, in the next example, we have Sami'un alimun. So we have a tanween again. A tanween has appeared, a double vowel, ummatain this time, two pesh. Tanween has appeared before a letter of the throat. Ain is a letter of the throat, pronounced from the wasatul halq, the middle of the throat. So what do we do here? We will do izhar. We will make the tanween short, sharp, and clear. So it's very important that you understand what we are making short, sharp, and clear. The tanween that we are making short, sharp, and clear. Sami'un alimun. Sami'un alimun. To recite Sami'un in this particular verse or these two words would be incorrect. Okay, so Hasidin إذا salamun hiya Sami'un alimun. And then here we have غفور حليم. غفور حليم. So now I'm sure you understand, inshallah, the ruling of izhar. Again, we have a tanween that's appeared before the letter of the throat, which is ha. So again, we will make the tanween short, sharp, and clear. We will recite this as غفور حليم and not غفور حليم. Same again. A tanween has appeared before a letter of the throat. You will make the tanween short, sharp, and clear. محصنات غير محصنات غير. And then now لطيف خبير. We have tanween before a huruful halki, a letter of the throat. So what do? We recite the tanween short, sharp, and clear. لطيف خبير. لطيف خبير. Okay, I am unable to hear you, but let's practice this together, inshallah. I will recite, and I will pause for you to recite after me, for us to practice. So, حاسد إذا سلام هي هي سميع أليم غفور حليم محصنات غير لطيف خبير. So these are your examples when tanween appears before haruful khalqiyya. Inshallah, now we will look at the examples of nun sākina before a letter of the throat. So here we have in this word, we have a nun sākina. If you can see here, we have a nun sākina, a nun that has no haraka. It has no dhamma, fatha, qasra. So how do we recite this? A nun sākina has appeared before a hamza. A hamza is a letter of the throat. So what do? We make the nun sākina short, sharp, and clear. How do we recite this? وَيَنْأَوْنَ وَيَنْأَوْنَ وَيَنْأَوْنَ. How do we not recite this? وَيَنْأَوْنَ وَيَنْأَوْنَ. Incorrect. Correct would be يَنْأَوْنَ. Okay. Moving on to the next example. We have a nun sākina again. A nun sākina which has appeared before haruf al-halqiyya, a letter of the throat, which is ha. So what do? We pronounce the noon short, sharp, and clear. Tanhar. Tanhar. How do we not pronounce this? Tanhar. Tanhar. Incorrect. وَيَنْأَوْنَ تَنْهَرْ. Okay, next, moving on. Example which is very relevant to you. A word that we recite day in, day out in each and every salah. An'amta. An'amta. Common mistake here is ana. Amata. We end up doing qalqala on the noon and the meme. Noon and meme are sākina. So here we do izhar of the noon. Why? Because it has appeared before the letter of the throat, which is ayn. An'amta. An'amta. How do we not recite this? An'amta. An'amta would be incorrect. Allah Kareem. Okay. Moving on. Wanhar. Wanhar. Here we have again a noon sākina. The letter after it is haruf al-hajjiyya, which is a ha. So how do we pronounce this noon? What do we do to this noon? We do izhar. We make the noon short, sharp, and clear. So we recite this as one how. How do we not recite this? One how. Next word. Here we have again noon sākina appearing before a letter of the throat, which is ghain. Ghain. How do we pronounce the noon? We do izhar, short, sharp, and clear. And you recite this as فَسَيُنْغِضُونَ فَسَيُنْغِضُونَ فَسَيُنْغِضُونَ. How do we not recite this? فَسَيُنْغِضُونَ. Incorrect. The last example of the izhar. Here again we have noon sākina before the letter of the throat, kha. What do we do to the noon? We do izhar, short, sharp, and clear. وَالْمُنْخَنِقَةُ وَالْمُنْخَنِقَةُ. How do we not recite this? وَالْمُنْخَنِقَةُ. Incorrect. Okay, again, yes, practice this together, inshallah. So I will recite, then I will pause, and inshallah you repeat after me. وَيَنْأَوْنَ تَنْهَرُ أَنْعَمْتَ وَانْحَرُ فَسَيُنْغِضُونَ وَالْمُنْخَنِقَةُ. And this is the rule of izhar. Very easy, not too hard. The only thing that you have to remember is the letters of the throat. Hamza, ha, ain, ha are two dots. they become ghain and kha. Alhamdulillah. Next rule. Okay, coming back to the poem. So now Sheikh Sulaiman Al-Jamzuri, he tells us about the second rule in Tajweed. Second rule of Nun Sakina and Tanween. He says, وَالثَّانِي إِدْغَامٌ بِسِتَّةٍ أَتَتْ يَرْمَيُونَ عِنْدَهُمْ قَدْ ثَبَتَتْ. قَدْ ثَبَتَتْ. He says, وَالثَّانِي إِدْغَامٌ. The second rule is, وَالثَّانِي. Thani means second. Idgham. The second rule is idgham in sittatin atat, which comes in 6 letters. Which comes in 6 letters. So the second rule is idgham in 6 letters. Yarmaluna, which comes, atat means to come, which comes fi in yarmaluna, in the code yarmaluna. According to who? Who informed us of this? The scholars told us. In the whom. In the, according to whom, the scholars. The whom pronoun damir refers to the scholars of Tajweed, the great scholars. قَدْ ثَبَتَتْ, which they established. So the second is idgham in 6 letters. Which 6 letters? These 6 letters are in the word yarmayun. Ya, ra, mim, yam, waw, nun. And the scholars have established this. Allah Karim. Then he says, لكنها كسمان كسم يدغما فيه بغنات بينموهما. He says, however, the letters are of 2 types. So in Yarmalun, you have 2 types. So the letters of Idgham are of 2 types. And the first type is Ismun Yudghama Fihi bi Gunnatin. So the first type is Kismun. First type is Yudghama Fihi bi Gunnatin. That in the Nun Sākina and Tanween, there is Idgham with Gunna. So Idgham is of 2 types. There's a type with Gunna, there's a type without Gunna. Here he is telling you the first type, which is with Gunna. In the word Yudghama, there's a pronoun Huma, which refers to the Nun Sākina and Tanween. And he says that the first type is that in which both the Nun Sākina and Tanween are assimilated. They are merged into one another with Gunna. And they are known in the code Yanmu. Uyima. Uyima means to be known. Yanmu is the code. It is known in the code Yanmu. So, this might not be making sense right now, but inshallah, when I explain the rule after the verses, inshallah, it will make sense. The first type of Idgham is when Idgham is done with Gunna, and this is with the letters Yanmu, Ya, Nun, Mim, and Waw. Then he says, إِلَّا إِذَا كَانَ بِكَلْمَةٍ فَيَا تُدْغِمْ كَدُنْيَا ثُمَّ سِنْوَانٍ تَيَا. He mentions the exception. Here he says, إِلَّا, except when both Mudgham and Mudgham Fih, when the Nun Sākina, or when the Nun Sākina and a Yarmalun letter appear in one word, then Fayatudgim, don't do Idgham. Like the word Dunya. Like the word Dunya. Ka Dunya. Ka means like Dunya, the word Dunya. You don't say Dunya, you say Dunya. Thumma Sinwanin Taga. And then, Thumma means then, Sinwanin. The word sinwanin. You do izhar of the noon. You don't do idgham. You don't say sinwani. It follows suit. Taya means which is the same as dunya. So he mentions the exception here. So he has told us in the first line the second rule of nun sākina and tanween is idgham, and it consists with 6 letters which are yarmalun. However, there's 2 types. The first type is idgham with gunna, which is in the word yanmu. And then he mentions the exception that when the nun sākina and the yarmalun letter appear in one word, you don't do idgham. Then he says, وَالثَّانِي إِدْغَامٌ بِغَيْرِ gunna في اليام والراء ثم كررن. He says, and the second, وَالثَّانِي, the second rule of idgham is بغير, without gunna, without nasalization. So you do idgham, but you don't do gunna. Don't get confused with this thani and this thani above. This thani refers to the second rule of nun sakina and tanween, and this thani refers to the second type of idgham. So wathani idghamun, wathani idghamun bighayri gunna. The second type is idgham without gunna. Yami. So if the yanmu letters, we have yarmalun at the top, 2 types. In yanmu is with gunna, that gives the letters yam and ra on the other side, and they are without gunna. Fi yami wa ra thumma kariranna, in the letters yam and ra. So the second is idgham without gunna. When you do idgham without gunna in the letters yam and ra, thumma kariranna, and observe the sifat of takreer, the characteristic of takreer, which we have a look at shortly. Okay. The second rule is idgham, which literally means assimilation. It means to merge one thing into another, to merge one letter into another, to join them, combine them. When nun sākina or tanween perceived one of the 6 yarmalun letters, so when nun sākina or tanween comes before any yarmalun letter, ya, ra, mim, yam, waw, and nun, the nun sākina or tanween is assimilated with the yarmalun letter by placing a shadda on the yarmalun letter. The letters of yarmalun are ya, ra, mim, yam, waw, and nun. Idgham has 2 types, as we have already established. Idgham with gunna, idgham bi gunna with the letters yanmu, and idgham without gunna with the letters yam and ra. And then we learned that if the noon sākina and the yarmalun letter are in the same word, then idgham is not done. And these are only 4 words in the Quran. There are only 4 words where this takes place. So look here, in this example, sinwanun, you have a noon sākina followed by a waw. Noon is a yarmalun letter, is followed by, noon is a noon sākina, the waw is a yarmalun letter. So because the noon sākina and a yarmalun letter have appeared in one word, we don't do idgham. We do izhar. Sinwanun, and not sinwanun. Again, likewise, qinwanun and not qinwanun. Ad-dunya, not dunya. Bunyanun and not bunyan. Moving on, inshallah, I'm hoping you're all still with me, following, inshallah. So then we have the examples of idgham with tanween. So look here, you have a tanween. You all know what tanween is now. A tanween appears before a yarmalun letter. So what do? You merge it. You merge the tanween into the following letter. And because it is a yanmu, ya is a yanmu letter, you do idgham with gunna. So yiqawmi ya'kiyuna. لقوم يعقلون كتابا مؤجلا كتابا مؤجلا. How long do you do gunna for? You do it for the length of 2 vowels. So if opening the finger once is 1 vowel, then twice. Opening and closing would constitute as 2 vowels. كتابا مؤجلا ووالد وما ذٍ وما tanween yarmagun yata. You merge it with gunna because it is wow is a yarmagun yata. Tawwabur rahimun. Tawwabur rahimun. So here ra is not a yarmagun yata. You're doing idgham. You see there's no nasalization. Tawwabur rahimun. Bur rahimun. باخئ نفسك باخئ نفسك نون ساكنة. There's that's my trigger throat. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik alayhi. Here we have a tanween followed by a noon which is a yarmagun yata. So what do? We do idgham with gunna. باخئ نفسك خيرا له خيرا له. See here, you have tanween. There's a yam without it. Yarmagun yata. Is yam part of yanmu? No, it is the other category, yam and ra. So it is without gunna. Khayran lahu. These are examples of idgham without gunna. So of idgham, yes, these are examples of idgham with tanween. Now inshallah we look at examples on nun sākina when idgham takes place. So you have a nun sākina and the yata, in all of these examples you have a nun sākina. The yata after it is a yarmagun yata. So what do? You idgham. You do idgham. أَمَّن يُجِيبُ أَمَّن يُجِيبُ مَن يُجِيبُ. See the noon is merging into the ya with gunna. مَن يُجِيبُ. Next we have لَن نَدْخُلَهَا لَن نَدْخُلَهَا. So you have a noon sākina followed by a noon which is a yanmu yata. Idgham with gunna. For how long? 2 vowels. لَن نَدْخُلَهَا. Next we have مِن وَلِيٍّ مِن وَلِيٍّ مِن وَلِيٍّ. Again, nun sākina followed by a yarmagun yata which is waw. Waw is part of yanmu. We merge the noon into the waw alongside doing gunna. Gunna. Min waliyin. Min waliyin. Next we have yubayyana. Yubayyana. Nun sākina. Yarmagun yata after it is not a part of the yanmu. So you merge without doing gunna. Yubayyana. Min mahisin. Min mahisin. Again, you do idgham with gunna, nun sākina followed by yarmagun yata. Mid-rizqi, mid-rizqi. Nun sākina followed by ra. What do? You do idgham without gunna. Mid-rizqi. Okay. In the last stanza that we looked at, it mentioned ثُمَّ كَذِّرًا. Then observe the sifat of the takreer. I told you yesterday that one of the characteristics of the letter, that every letter has sifat characteristics. And one sifat of the letter ra is that it has the sifat, the characteristic of takreer. Takreer. Takreer literally means rolling of the tongue. So, the rolling of the tongue, that is your takreer, sifat of takreer. And the takreer should not be beyond that which is necessary. So even though it's unavoidable, it shouldn't be excessive. So for me to recite in this example, this particular example, to recite Tawwabur Rahim, Rahim, the rowing, the takreer is too much, it's excessive. This destroys the beauty of the Quran, and it is attacking the minor, the Yahm al-Khafi. This Yahm al-Khafi is a minor mistake, and it is attacking the beauty of the Quran. Tawwabur Rahim, Bur Rahim. Correct would be Tawwabur Rahim. So even though takreer is unavoidable, it should only be so much that the person next to you can hear it. No, it doesn't continue 2 kilometers down the road. Tawwabur Rahim, Bur Rahim. And if reciting in a microphone is unavoidable, but we're speaking here about, when you're reciting without the microphone, so it should only be that much that the person next to you can hear it. That is the sifat of takreer for the letter Ra. Moving on, Subhanallah al-Azim. So we have covered 2 rules so far. We have covered the rule of Izhar, that is when the letters of Nun Sākina, the letters of the throat appear after the Nun Sākina or Tanween. What do? You do Izhar, you make the Nun or the Tanween short, sharp and clear. And then the second rule we've established is Idgham. Idgham appears in the Yarmayun letters. Then you have 2 types. Yarmayun at the top, 2 types. You have Yanmu, when Nun Sakina appears before Yanmu letter. You do Idgham, you merge whilst doing Gunna. On the other hand, you have Yam and Ra. Nun Sakina Tanween appears before Yam and Ra. You do Idgham without Gunna. Moving on, rule number 3. Sheikh Sulaiman al-Jumzuri, rahimahullah, he says, وَالثَّالِثُ الْإِقْلَابُ عِنْدَ الْبَاءِ. He says the third rule, وَالثَّالِثُ, is إِقْلَاب. إِقْلَاب. عِنْدَ الْبَاءِ. إِقْلَاب means to change something, to flip something. Like the word qalb. Allah Kareem has created our heart, qalb. It is constantly in a state of turning, flipping. We go through so many emotions. Likewise, Iqlab means to change something, to flip something. So what are we changing? We are changing the ba in the with al-ba, the letter ba, into miman. Change the letter ba into a mim. Whilst doing gunna, bi gunnatin ma'al ikhfa'i, with gunna and ikhfa. So the third rule is called iqlab with the letter ba. So we know that the rule of izhar was with the letters of the throat, hamza, ha, ain, ha, wain, kha. We know that the idgham was with the yarmagun letters. Iqlab is only with the letter ba. When the letter ba, we come to the ruling, I'll explain it to each other. Let's go to the translation. Mimam bi gunnatin ma'al ikhfa. So the third rule is iqlab with the letter ba. It changes into a meme with gunna alongside observing ikhfa. Then he says, والرابع الإخفاء عند الفادي من الحروف واجب للفاض في 5 من بعد 10 رمزها في كلمي هذا البيت ضمنتها. Okay, you might be thinking, why is Ustad Saab not reciting with tajweed? Why am I making something long, something short? Why didn't I do gunna on the dhammantuha? Let us remind ourselves that the tajweed is particular and khas to the Quran. When I'm speaking to you, I'm not going to say السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته يا زيد كيف حالك هل أنت بخير أنت بخير. If you do this with Arabs, you're going to think we lost the plot. Yeah, so tajweed is particular to the Quran. So Shaykh Sulaiman al-Jamzuri rahimahullah, he says, the third rule is Iqlab, we've established that. Very easy, very simple. He says the fourth rule is Ikhfa or Rabi. Rabi means four, ay Ikhfa. The fourth rule is Ikhfa. In the with ay Fadhi. Fadil means the remainder. Remainder of what? Remainder of the letters. So take out the Izhar letters, take out the Idgham letters, take out the Iqlab letter. All the letters that are remaining, what will you do with them? You will observe Ikhfa. من الحروف واجب إخفاده. The fourth rule is Ikhfa with the remaining letters, with the remainder min of al-hurufi, the letters. The fourth rule is Ikhfa with the remainder of the letters, wajibun. It is wajib, it is necessary. Yayfadi. You see, Shaykh Sulaiman here, he uses the same word. He uses fadi, but here he refers to fadi as the yearned. You see, in Arabic, one word can have numerous meanings. Subhanallah alim. The first fadi in the fadi refers to the remainder of the letters, and the second fadi refers to somebody who has been graced, somebody who has Allah has granted something, somebody upon whom Allah has done His fadl, His grace. So he says now, look, first he referred to as, at the beginning he told us this is a gift for the children. It's a Tuhfatul Atfāl. He called you and me al-tifl. And then he said, سَمَّيْتُهُ بِتُحْفَةِ الْأَطْفَالِ, it's a gift for the children. He reminded us that we children, we are beginners in this. And now he's saying that, you learned Izhar, you learned Idgham, you've learned Iqlab, and now that you've learned the four rulings of Nun, sākina, and Tanween, you've learned something. Now you're starting to become a little bit acquainted, a little bit knowledgeable in the science of Tajweed. So he says, now because of the learned, Yafadi. So this is the fourth rule. Third rule is Iqlab with the letter Ba. Fourth rule is Ikhfa with all the remaining letters. What are those remaining letters? He says, في خمسة من بعد عشر رمزها في كلمي هذا البيت قد ضمنتها. He says, in 5 from after 10, meaning 15. You see, Shaykh Sulaiman, rather than saying 15, he has said 5 from after 15. And he has done this to make the words of this fit the scale of the poem. في خمسة من بعد عشر رمزها في كلمي هذا البيت قد ضمنتها. So in 15 letters. So Ikhfa is observed in 15 letters. Excuse me. Ikhfa is observed in 15 letters. Ramzuha. Rams means key. Its key. What's key? The key of Ikhfa. The key. The letters of Ikhfa are in fi kilmi هذا البيت. They are in the words kilm of هذا, this al-bayt. You see, one stanza, one couplet is known as a bayt. He says, it's in this bayt, this next couplet, قَدْ ضَمَّنْتُهَا, which I have combined. Which I have combined for you. So in this line, Shaykh Sulaiman is telling us, you might be thinking, Yar, how am I going to remember these 15 letters? This is way too much. He says, don't worry about it. I'll tell you them, and I'll tell you these letters in a very easy manner. I'll put them in one couplet for you. So this يعني في خمسة من بعد أشهر رمزها في كلمة هذا البيت قد ضمنتها. So observe Ikhfa in 15 letters. Its key is رمزها in the words of this couplet, the next couplet that I have combined. What is that bait? What is that couplet? He says, Sif, I know this couplet is really beautiful. Look at the intelligence of Shaykh Sulaiman al-Jamzuri, rahimahumullah. Whilst telling us these letters, he's actually giving you a mean nasihat. He's telling us to become good Muslims. He's telling us to better ourselves. He's saying whilst acquiring the knowledge of Quran and Tajweed, don't just learn the knowledge, but rather remember your sincerity and your duty towards Allah Kareem, Allah the Almighty. He says, Sif, Sif ذا ثنا, Sif ذا ثنا, كم جاد شخص قد سما, ضم طيبا, زد في طقا, ضع ظالما. Allah Kareem, Allah Kareem. He says, Sif ذا ثنا, describe the possessor of praise, the praiseworthy. Describe the praiseworthy. How are the praiseworthy described? Those who are qabil ta'rif, those who are worthy of praise. They are worthy of being complimented. Who are those people? He says, Kam jada shakhsun qad sama. Kam jada shakhsun qad sama. He says, how many or how generous is a person? Kam, how, jada, generous is a shakhs, is a person. Qad sama, who is great. How generous is a person who is great. Allah Kareem. So, Sheikh Sulaiman is telling us here, a person who is great is always generous. I'm not saying to you, give all your money to Darul Qurra. Everything that you have, give it to Darul Qurra. Empty your banks and, whatever you have, donate it to Darul Qurra so we can continue providing these free courses of Quran. That's not what I am saying. No, that's not what Sheikh Sulaiman is saying. But he's saying, whatever you are able to give, whether it's in terms of money, if you have knowledge, Allah has graced you with knowledge, then pass on that knowledge. If Allah has given you a beautiful voice to recite qasa'id, to recite Quran, then pass that skill on to others. Whatever skill you have, pass that skill on to others. If you are able to, if you're a good plasterer, or if you're a good electrician, or any a tradesman or skill that you have, then use that for the benefit of Islam. Do something to help your masjid, help your community. Do it to aid Islam. This is what he is saying. So he says, how generous is a person who is great? He has attributed greatness to generosity, to the quality of generosity. Then he says, Dum tayyiban. Dama yadumu. Dum is the fi'l amar, the command, the imperative. Always. He's saying is Dum tayyiban. Always be tayyib. Tayyib means to be pure, to be great, to be pure. Dum tayyiban. Always be good. Always engage yourself in khair, in goodness. Stay away from badness. Zid fi tuqan. He says, Zid, Zada yazidu, increase. Fi tuqan. Increase in tuqan. Tuqa refers to taqwa. He says, increase in piety. Allah Kareem. This is one of the purposes of the Quran, one of the benefits of the Quran, as we discussed yesterday, that the Quran gives us guidance. And who is the Quran guidance for? The opening verse of the Quran tells us, Hudayyi muttaqeen. It is guidance for the God-fearing. Taqwa, Ya Allah. Ibn Kathir and Hasan al-Basri, rahimahumallah, they describe taqwa as obeying Allah Almighty, doing that which pleases Him, and refraining from that which angers Him. So, taqwa is something that you adopt, something that you implement in order to avoid something else. Let me put this in our terms for you. This example, I think it will make more sense. And it's very relevant to us today, considering the fact that we are going through the pandemic and COVID-19. So, your taqwa is your protective equipment, it's your PPE, personal protective equipment. We all know what PPE is now. Before we didn't know, but now we all know. It's your mask, it's your helmet, it's your gloves, and it's protecting yourself. Why is it that we're wearing a mask? We are wearing a mask to protect ourselves from inhaling the germs, the bacteria, and the virus COVID-19. So it's for protection. Why do we wear gloves? To protect our hands from heat and cold or from chemicals that may damage our hands. Why is it that we wear a helmet? We wear a helmet to protect our skull, our brain from becoming injured. Your taqwa is your PPE to protect Allah Almighty from becoming angry with you. From earning the wrath of Allah. It's protection from the high fire of hell. It's protection from the azab in the qabr. Protection from Allah's anger. This is our taqwa, it's our PPE. So Shaykh Sulaiman al-Jamzuri says, Zid fi tuqan. Increase in taqwa. He says, Da' zagima. He says, leave. Da'. Stay away from. Zagima. That person who is zagim, that person who is a tyrant, he's oppressive. Stay away from that person. Allah Kareem. So you see, Shaykh Sulaiman al-Jamzuri, you might be thinking we're studying tajweed here. What's going on? We're going off topic. We're talking about generosity and being good and taqwa and giving the zagim. You see, Shaykh Sulaiman, through his wisdom, in this couplet, you will be amazed to know, as well as giving us nasiha, advising us to be good, he has told us the letters of Ikhfa. In the beginning of all of these letters, all of these words, the Sad, the Dal, the Tha, Kaf, Jim, Sheen, etc. to the end, the beginning letter of each word is a huruf, is a harf of Ikhfa. Allah Kareem. Allah Kareem. Let us move on and have a look at these rules that we are able to understand. And again, I would like to remind you, if you don't understand Arabic, don't become off. That's no problem. As long as you are able to understand the rules in my explanation, inshallah, that is fine. So we've done Izhar, we've done Idgham. What are these four rules of? They are the rules of Nun, Sākina, and Tanween, just as a reminder. The third rule is Iqlab. It literally means to make something turn. To make something turn. When Nun, Sākina, or Tanween precedes the letter Ba, Nun Sākina or Tanween comes before the letter Ba, what do we do? The Nun Sākina or Tanween is pronounced as a Mim, which is shown as, depicted as a small Mim above the Nun Sākina or the Tanween. Let us have a look at the examples. Very easy rule. So when the letter Ba appears before a Nun Sākina or Tanween, what do? You will see a small Mim like this shown above the Nun Sākina, which means that you change that Nun into Mim. So here you will say Mim Ba'di, Mim Ba'di, Mim Ba'di. You see the Nun Sākina is changed into the Mim. We are doing Gunna, we are doing nasalization. Because the letters of Gunna are Nun and Mim. We are doing nasalization. And we also observe Ikhfa. How do we observe Ikhfa? You see, the yata meme is pronounced from the lips, and the yata ba is also pronounced from the lips. So the meme and the ba are very close in makhraj. They are very close from the place that they are pronounced from. Yeah. So we are concealing the meme into the ba by uh, making our lips close to the makhraj of ba. So mim ba'di, mim ba'di. How long do we observe gunna for the length of two vowels? So to say mim ba'di, mim ba, to say mim ba'di, mim ba'di is incorrect. It has to be two vowels. So mim ba'di. Again we have here in the next example, we have a noon sākina which appears before the yata ba. What do we do? The noon sākina changes into meme. We do iqlab of the noon into meme. We change it into meme and we do ikhfa and gunna. Mim bani, mim bani, mim bani. Again, here we have the word anbiya'u. We have a noon sākina before the yata ba. What do we do? The noon we do iqlab of the noon into meme, changes into meme, and we observe gunna and ikhfa. How do we do this? أنبياء أنبياء أنبياء. Common mistake. Whenever Hamza appears at the beginning of a word, it is often pronounced as a full mouth letter. The full mouth letters are khussa, dagdin, qiz. Hamza is not one of them. So to recite anbiya, is incorrect. It's not it's a. Hamza fatha a, not a. Yeah, so alhamdu, alhamdu, al, a, al, alhamdu, incorrect. It's a, not a. So here we have anbiya'u. Next example, we have a tanween and the yata after it is abba. So we do iqlab of the tanween into meme and we do gunna and ikhfa. Nafsan bighayri, nafsan bighayri, nafsan bighayri. Next example. Mashsha'in binamimin, mashsha'in binamimin, binamimin. So you have a tanween before a ba, change the tanween into meme, conceal it into the ba, and observe gunna. Mashsha'in binamimin. Note, iqlab is observed with gunna and ikhfa. Very easy rule, inshallah. I hope you have understood. Allah Kareem give you tawfiq. And if you do have any questions regarding any of, or you don't understand anything, feel free to message me afterwards, and inshallah I will clarify at the beginning of tomorrow's lesson. Okay, moving on. You will get to know that we are approaching the last rule, which is Ikhfa. So, Izhar was to make the noon sākina or tanween short, sharp, and clear. Idgham was to merge the yarmayun, the noon into the noon sākina or tanween into the yarmayun letters. So we have used Hamza, Ha, Ain, Kha, Ghain, Kha in the Izhar. We've used the yarmayun letters in Idgham. We've used the yata ba in Iqlab. All the remaining 15 letters will be used for Ikhfa. And Sheikh Sulaiman al-Jamzuri, rahimahullah, very intelligently gave us nasihat and told us these letters in this stanza. Sif ذا ثنا كم جاد شخص قد سما دم طيبا زد في تقل ظالما. Okay, what is Ikhfa? Rule number 4. Ikhfa, it literally means to hide. When Nun Sākina or Tanween precedes one of the 15 letters of Ikhfa, the Nun Sākina or Tanween is not pronounced as clearly as in Izhar, and nor is it totally hidden as in Idgham, but it is somewhere in between. A small amount of air is released through the lips as well as the nose during Ikhfa. So, in Izhar, we made the Noon very clear. We made it very clear. So, see Izhar at the top. Yeah, see Izhar at the top. We made the Noon very clear. Then we had Idgham, which is at the bottom. Izhar at the top, Idgham at the bottom. Idgham, in Idgham, we totally eliminated the Noon, where we merged it into the next letter. Ikhfa is in between. So we neither totally pronounce it as clearly as Izhar, and nor do we totally hide it like we did in Idgham. It's in between. And a small amount of air is released through the lips as well as the nose during Ikhfa. Yes, I will look at some examples. Insha'Allah. The examples are in the book on page 64. So where Allah Kareem says, for example, Mansura, Mansura, with the letter Sad. You have Sad, which has the Nun Sakin has appeared before the letter Sad. It's not an Izhar letter, not an Idgham letter, not an Iqlab letter. So what do? We conceal it. We do Ikhfa of the Noon into the Sad. Mansura. And then tunzirhum, tunzirhum, tunzirhum. We have forgotten to include the examples of Ikhfa on the slides. So inshallah, what we will do is we will continue with this. We'll practice this at the beginning of tomorrow. Because I think it's better that you see the words and then we will go to the examples, inshallah. So at the beginning of tomorrow's lesson, I will very quickly recap Ikhfa and we will practice the examples, inshallah. Again, on pages 61, 62 of the book, on pages 65, at the end of each rule, you have questions and exercises and words to practice with. You know, if you do the exercises in this book, inshallah, you will understand these rules 100%. You know, you will be able to explain it as I have explained to you in a very clear manner, and you won't find it difficult because the book is designed to give you sufficient practice so that you're able to teach the rule to others with ease and comfort. So do purchase this book again, inshallah. So today we've covered the rules of Nun Sakina and Tanween. There's 4 rules: Izhar, Idgham, Iqlab, and Ikhfa. Very easy. Inshallah, do go through the book, do revise through this. If you have any questions, feel free to message and ask. Inshallah, we will continue tomorrow. Allah Kareem, bless you all for taking part and for taking out your valuable time for learning the kalam of Allah the Almighty. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.